Greetings, friends. What if I told you that behind the majestic towers, fragrant gardens, and gleaming palaces of the Ottoman Empire, there was a hidden world? A world where young men were trained not just in courtly etiquette or academic subjects, but in the art of pleasure. These individuals were not slaves or soldiers, they were male concubines who were cultivated, cherished, and then, like a forgotten memory, vanished. In the Ottoman court, these boys were not kept hidden in shame. They were displayed as symbols of wealth, power, and masculine status. This is more than a mere historical footnote. It is a narrative of desire, betrayal, and a societal paradox that will astound you. While many people believe harems were exclusively female spaces filled with veiled women and the lust of sultans, that is only a portion of the truth. Across various ancient civilizations, including Persia, Greece, and China, men were also kept for their beauty and companionship, and the Ottoman Empire was no different. Here, male concubines were seen as a mark of sophistication, and their presence was normalized, even celebrated among the elite. However, being treasured did not guarantee safety. Behind every smile was a shadow, and behind every silk robe, a cage. Consider the poignant and almost legendary story of Tahir and Tib, two young Ottomans captured by Christian noblemen. One might anticipate torture, chains, and suffering, but instead, their captors fell in love with them, showered them with presents, and treated them with kindness. For a brief period, it seemed that love had triumphed over politics, but the harsh reality soon set in. Both Christian and Muslim societies were not prepared for their truth. Their love, although genuine, was branded as perverse. The penalty, imprisonment, humiliation, and separation was just the beginning. In this video, we will delve into the past to reveal stories just like theirs. We'll hear tales of boys who were brought into the court not as servants or slaves, but as beloved companions. The Ottoman Empire, which stretched from southeastern Europe to the Middle East and North Africa, was one of the most powerful forces the world had ever witnessed. Under the rule of sultans such as Sultan the Magnificent, the empire reached its zenith in culture, military might, and administrative sophistication. Yet beneath the surface of its laws and power was a domain governed by emotion, secrecy, and forbidden pleasure. Handsome, skilled young men, some as young as 8 or 9, were chosen for their appearance, grace, and potential. They were brought into the imperial court, often from conquered lands, and housed within the palace walls. There, they were instructed in music, etiquette, poetry, politics, and how to please. These boys, known as yamaks, lived in gender-specific quarters and were closely watched by palace officials. The Venetian envoy Benedetto Ramberti noted with astonishment that up to 500 youths between the ages of 8 and 20 lived within the palace and were considered the delight of the senior. They were not permitted to leave until they were deemed worthy of public office or until their beauty waned. They were prepared not just for service, but for admiration. Many sultans and high-ranking officials openly kept such boys as companions, and no one found it strange. You see, the Ottomans did not define sexuality in the same way we do today. They did not categorize people as gay or straight. Instead, they classified lovers based on dominance, as either active or passive. A man could love another man, and it was not considered abnormal as long as he maintained a masculine role. However, true love was always at risk. For centuries, these relationships flourished behind palace walls and within military ranks. Even the janissaries, the empire's elite soldiers, took part in these arrangements. For many boys, being chosen meant escaping poverty, receiving an education, and living in luxury. For the older men, it meant companionship, prestige, and having beauty readily available. Some yamaks were even given tax exemptions in exchange for their loyalty and service. To outsiders, it might have seemed like a perfect situation, but was it? This entire hidden system was carefully overseen by the Sultan himself. He had the final say over the lives, futures, and even the love affairs of these boys. Many never left the palace until they were considered ready for a position of power, for politics, or for marriage. But things were about to change. As the empire embraced Western diplomacy and ideas, foreign concepts of sexuality, sin, and shame began to infiltrate Ottoman society. By the 18th century, these once celebrated practices started to recede into the shadows. Homosexuality, though still practiced, was now concealed, whispered about, and increasingly condemned. A dark cloud hung over the pleasures of the past. Then came the event that changed everything, the Penal Code of 1858. This law stipulated that anyone who publicly committed acts contrary to modesty could face up to 1 year in prison and significant fines. In Istanbul, government-sanctioned violence followed. Men were beaten in the streets, had their heads shaved in humiliation, and some were sexually assaulted. The message was clear. Tolerance was no longer an option. Many people wondered, why now? The Quran had remained unchanged for centuries. So what led to this new hostility? Historians point to Western influence. As European ideas of morality and modern civilization took hold, Ottoman society began to adopt them. Where love had once been fluid, it was now regulated. Where passion had once been poetic, it was now considered criminal. The West did not just bring science and steam engines, it brought stigma, and yet some dared to resist. Tahir and Tib, the young men we met earlier, had fallen deeply in love with their Christian captors. After being imprisoned for sodomy, the two Ottoman men were eventually released, but their lovers remained behind bars. Unwilling to be separated, the Christian noblemen escaped prison, reunited with Tahir and Tib, and in a shocking act of devotion, converted to Islam to be together. They hoped that by embracing the Ottoman faith, they could live freely. It was a desperate gamble, but it was not enough to reverse the course of history. By the late 19th century, the era of the male beloved was over. Women had taken their place in the courts. Public affection shifted towards young girls. The Ottoman writer Ahmed Cevdet Pasha lamented, "Woman lovers have increased in number while boy beloveds have decreased. It is as if the people of Lot have been swallowed by the earth." And just like that, an entire era vanished. Today, documentation of what followed is scarce. Few people dared to preserve this controversial chapter of Ottoman history, but if we dig deep enough, the stories are still there. Stories of boys loved and lost, of courts that whispered their names, and of a love that blossomed even when it was not permitted to survive. Tahir and Tib remind us that no matter how harsh the world becomes, love, true love, will always find a way. Whether in the golden rooms of a sultan's palace or the dark cells of a prison, passion does not die. It adapts, it endures, and sometimes it escapes. So, what are your thoughts? Was this hidden world a testament to tolerance or a facade concealing darker truths? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more shocking, untold stories from history's darkest corners, be sure to like, subscribe, and join us on this journey through the past.